Sahara Rose Devore created a revolutionary business from her solo travel adventures across 84 countries. She is the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network, and she's changing the travel game. She's a TEDx speaker, an author, and she created the only IFC accredited travel coach certification program. Featured in Forbes, CNN Travel, and Condé Nast Traveler, Sahara is a force to be reckoned with. So buckle up for a good dose of travel inspiration. Sahara, welcome to Diana Prince.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this episode's going to be very problematic for me because I can talk travel forever. Let's see if we can keep this episode as short and sweet as we like them. I think what I want to talk about today, Sahara, I want to focus in more on the healing aspects of travel. And I think I want to get started with first asking you to give us a little bit about your backstory. And in your introduction, I did mention that you traveled 84 countries solo. So I would love to hear about that. And how did you jump from college student to traveling those 84 countries?
So I did not come from a family that traveled a lot at all. Our extent of traveling was in the family van, packed in the family van and drove Wisconsin up north and then down to southern Texas and then over the border to Mexico, which is where my grandmother's family is from. And then the same thing up to the French region of Canada in the family van. But I was so young, I remember bits and pieces of the Mexico trips. But no one traveled for business. No one took lavish vacations. Travel wasn't something that we talked a lot about, or I knew I had a lot of awareness about. I too, over the years, thought that travel, I believe the same things about travel that many people do, that it's expensive. There are places that you just shouldn't go. Oh, it could be unsafe, especially if you're traveling alone, like all of those things that people say. But it was just kind of put in the back of my mind. Then when I got into high school, I heard about this thing called backpacking Europe. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So my best friend and I at the time were like, once we graduate high school, we're going to take some time off before going to university and we'll go backpacking Europe. And of course, our parents were like, no, you're not taking time off before you go to college.
How about the danger aspect of it, right? Like,
Well, that's what our parents thought. Like,
yeah.
how dangerous is that? Like, you can't go by yourself. And all of those beliefs continue to stay. There's a lot of people believe that travel is so unsafe.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad that my story and of traveling as much as I did is a testament to show, and not only my story, like so many other people's stories out there of how incredible it can be. So we didn't backpack Europe. I went to university. I hopped around majors, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I got into a hospitality and tourism program my third year university because I was changing schools and moving back to the Midwest. And I came across a travel tourism program and I'm like, hey, travel, that's cool. Maybe it's something I started thinking about again. Who doesn't want to travel? So got into the programs 2 years and it was during that program that I was really inspired to travel once I was done in 2 years with school. I met a lot of foreign exchange students. There's people from parts of Asia I never heard of and all over Europe. And I was just really in awe of how much they have traveled and how many countries they've been to and how easy it was to travel in other parts of the world. And I said to myself, I'm going to do that. Once I'm done in a couple of years, like I'm going to do that. But I sat there as this broke college student living in the expensive city of Chicago, which was expensive then, but obviously not as expensive probably as now. But my rent was $1,000 a month. I was using coupons to like get groceries. So I'm like, I don't know how I can do that. Because again,
Hmm.
belief that wasn't thinking that was unsafe at the time, but I was thinking it's how am I going to afford that? Right? It must be expensive. And so I just worked my butt off. And for the last 2 years, I was working 5 jobs while I was finishing school full time, saved up enough money upon graduation, and I booked that first ticket to Europe. And that was the beginning of my backpacking journey around the world.
Wonderful. Okay, so that was your first trip out, right? Where did you go? What was the first
So
one?
I started in Ireland and I was staying with a family friend. So I thought maybe it was a good buffer, which it was. It was a good buffer for me as the very first destination where I'd be by myself, but I wouldn't 100% be by myself. So I stayed with a family for 5 days. They showed me around Ireland. It was absolutely amazing. They were amazing. And then I jumped on a boat and went to Paris. And that was the first time I was by myself. And that's when the whole adventure really began.
And from there, did you just country jump from there? And then,
Yeah, so I had what they called a year rail pass. So the one that I bought, I think it was like, I don't know, it was quite pricey for me. I think it was like $800. I don't remember, but it was for an X amount of countries in 30 days or something you can travel to. So any of those countries on the list you can go to. And so I really tried to pack in as many as I could during that time. So I was spending a lot of time on the trains back then. So yeah, it was all over Western Europe at the time. So I went to Spain and France and Germany, and I hit a lot of the capitals and bigger cities back then. But over time, those were not my favorite places that I would continue to go to.
okay, so you got the travel bug, right? A lot of us get it at that point. You covered a lot of countries at that point. I'm sure you've traveled since then. What makes you want to just continue traveling? I mean, I know my reasons for it. It's like for me, that's my something to look forward to explore. What does it mean for you when you start planning that next trip?
It's so different because every time that I plan a trip where I actually don't plan trips, I choose what region I'm going to go to.
Okay.
I'm not a planner at all. My extent of planning was I would print out, like I would go to Google Images and I'd Google like a map of the world and I would print out that region of the world. So Southeast Asia or Europe or like the French Polynesian when I would go to Australia. So I would print out these regions, South America, print out these regions of the world, and I would literally bring this printed piece of paper with me with all of these cities on it. And I'd say, where do I want to go next?
Hmm.
And I would look to see what's on the map. And that's how I decided where to go next, plus word of mouth from other people. But I usually I'm a beach bum, so I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia. Just
Oh,
everything I wanted was there with the culture and the people and the food and the beaches and the sunshine and all of that. So I tended to go towards warmer countries, but there were times where I knew I wanted to see other regions of the world. It wasn't going to be so warm, and so those were not as long of trips. Usually I'd spend like 6 months hopping around to the warmer countries.
wonderful. So tell me how traveling changed your perspective. Like, what is the most pivotal thing that has changed with the way you see the world?
Yeah, I think there's so much that I can answer with that. But some of the things that stick out most to me is travel really taught me one about myself, like what kind of life do I want to live, like what matters to me. And that's really what led me to what I do now, where I'm able to create my lifestyle, create my day to day. And I did the same thing when I was traveling. That's why I didn't have like an overpacked itinerary. I wanted to be able just to be do what made me happy, because we can't predict how we're going to feel every day. Taught me a lot about empathy and compassion for other people, putting trust in other people as well. This world's really filled with a lot of amazing human beings that even if they don't speak your language, they are willing to help you
Hmm.
and want to also make sure you're okay and happy and protected and fed and warm and everything. And gratitude for two different ways. One is being grateful for what we have and also being grateful for what we don't have. So there's parts of the world where we're grateful for the simple things that we can come back to, like an abundance of toilet paper that we don't have to worry about like not having, or paper products like napkins when you're eating. But then there's we're grateful for the things that we don't have to deal with that other countries and people do. And so it really puts things into perspective but that's up to us as the traveler to realize that and to take that back with us and do something with it, implement that into our lives. As simple as, I would see how much trash is in the oceans in these beautiful places I would go to. And so every time I'm throwing a piece of plastic away, I'm thinking like, is this recyclable or is it not? Despite all the talk about whether it actually where it actually ends up, I don't know, but at least I feel like I'm making a difference because of what I've seen in the world. And just being grateful for what we do have every day. I'm like, I have a food on my table and a roof over my head, and I'm warm, even though it's like snowing and freezing outside, and not everybody has all that stuff. So traveling really helped shape me into who I am today. And I feel like if I stayed in a bubble or I stayed within my safe space my entire life, I wouldn't have the perspective and understanding that I have today.
You mentioned something that you got from traveling, which is like a practical benefit from it, the recycling piece, obviously lifestyle differences and everything like that. One of the things that I came away with, not only just that perspective with the plastics and everything like that, and I'm a little neurotic. I don't think you can get any more neurotic than me on what I'm disposing of, what I'm consuming. But definitely my wardrobe has gotten to the point. I used to have a wardrobe that was one whole room, and now it's just complete. I'm just more mindful of what
Mhm.
I'm consuming and how many clothes I have. And I just notice like the rest of the world doesn't operate with 20 pairs of pants. But the recyclables is also the practical and a lifestyle change that I walked away with as well.
Yeah, and even just traveling itself, like when I was traveling with a backpack, and well, granted, I had a backpack for some of it, and then I had a small suitcase for some of it because I have like a weird foot condition where I can't carry a backpack all the time that's heavy. So my point is like I had a small space to carry a limited amount of things that you can get by with not very much, and you don't need a lot. Honestly, when I was traveling, I can't wait to get rid of these things. Like I'm leaving the cold countries and I'm gonna put them in my hostel room and let hopefully someone else has this sweater or this
Yeah.
scarf or gloves. I don't want this to carry around anymore. And it's kind of like a metaphor in life. Like you're able to shed layers of yourself
Mhm.
as you
Let somebody
go.
else use it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let somebody else use
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. And I'm like, people are always worry about if like the airlines like lost their luggage. I'm like, please, like I don't care. Like I don't want to carry.
Where you were at traveling, I had to evolve to, because I was that traveler that had the outfits,
Yeah.
and
Oh
the
yeah,
fluffy
not
shoes
me.
and the bags and shit like that. And
No.
but I had to evolve to that because travel for me was, it started very differently, and I would have benefited from the backpack experience and learning minimalism from the get-go, but that wasn't the deal. It's like I come from like, oh, when it's just so glamorous and you got to have an outfit for everything. Not anymore, and I enjoy travel better, even more so right now because you're not burdened with so much stuff. And
Yeah,
but
yeah.
definitely where you were at coming out of college is was something I had to work towards.
Plus,
Well,
also there were so many like beautiful things that I bought when I was traveling. Like shopping could
yeah,
be
you want to
cheaper in
leave some
other
room for
places,
it,
and
right?
I lived in Thailand for a while, and I loved shopping there, and so I got rid of like my other stuff. But yeah, you just realize a lot of things that when you're traveling, especially when you're on your own or you're limited with things, so you'd be really surprised what traveling could teach you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you're on your own, and yeah, the bigger the suitcase, the worse your travels are going to be, actually. So let's talk about travel and healing. I know that you had a couple conversations about that and how you see travel, that it can be something that you utilize to heal you in some way, shape, or form. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of that on retreats and such. But how are you, when you're talking about travel and healing, how are you looking at it? Can you give us a little background on that?
I used to always start my story, or when people ask me, like, why did I start traveling? I didn't want to sit in a corporate office, obviously, which that is true. And I didn't know what I wanted to do at the age of 22 with my life. So I did think travel was fun and I wanted to go see the world. But the more I thought about it, I realized like I wasn't telling my real truth of why I started traveling. And that really just points to I've always had an anxiety disorder, always struggled with anxiety as long as I can remember. And my last couple of years of university, I just remember hitting a point of like complete burnout, and that was causing my anxiety. So the first time I ever had, I started having anxiety attacks for the first time. And then I started getting depressed and not happy. I just was in this routine. I just was not in a happy place. And so I'm someone who there's fight or flight, and I'm very much a flight person. So I took that literally. And so that's why I started traveling. I was like, I need to not feel how I feel now. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know what I'm going to find or experience, but I hope to feel something different, not knowing what travel would actually do for me. I thought I was going to go for a month and a half to Europe as long as my Euro pass allowed me to go for, and I'd come back home and then I would quote unquote figure out my life and come back to the big city of Chicago and work for any of these big companies and climb the ladder and do all the things I was supposed to do. But on that trip, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much this is really impacting me. So when it comes to healing for me in travel, is not about spas. It's not about wellness centers. It's not about all of the things we hear when we hear about wellness and travel. It's about everything you experience that can help you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even physically. So the people I was meeting and the stories I would hear, the challenges I would face and how I was learning just how capable I was to figure things out on my own and to navigate places, the skills I was learning, and then the time that I was spending in nature was super healing for me. I was always gravitated towards bodies of water, and I thought it was because I'm an Aquarius, but there's so much research out there, which I didn't know the term a blue zone or a blue space, but there's reasons why I'm a beach bum and that I would go to places where there's pristine lakes or something where I can just be in nature. And that was super healing for me. It gave me time to reflect. It gave me time to just figure out like what made me happy. And I realized all of those things, all of those experiences were adding to my happiness. So that's why I continued to keep on going and try to absorb as much as I could along the way, and seeing these different places, how they lived, and experiencing these different cultures, these different ways of life was really healing for me to have a deeper understanding of what else is out there. Yeah, I mean, I just like all of that to me is wellness. I always say like wellness is travel and travel is wellness, because I don't think we should categorize wellness travel. There's so much research and anecdotal stories out there that share just how healing travel can be.
I'm going to paint a picture for you, and I want your take on it. Okay, you're sitting at dinner with other couples, and one of the other wives hears about your trip to Paris, and she says, "Oh, you've been to Paris. I would love to go to Paris, but my husband won't fly." What do you say to that woman?
Yeah, I mean, I would
What
first
would you
ask if
tell
her
her?
husband would go anywhere, because otherwise she can go on her own. She can go with friends, but also Paris may not be where she exactly should be going. And maybe there's a place that would be closer where they can maybe take a train or someplace. So maybe understanding more of why she wants to get away and why Paris, if it's just a,
Well, why wouldn't she just go, right?
yeah, I mean, it's obviously that's one of the things that holds people back is like, oh, I have no one to go with, or
Yeah,
like
yeah, it
my
is
partner or
actually.
spouse won't go.
I'm using that one example. When you're doing it on your own, you've done it through 84 countries, but that solo aspect of it, to think that you just didn't need somebody to travel with you. And I'm going to tell you why I posed that question. That was my one of my biggest barriers. So now it may be very different. When I was traveling in my 30s, I didn't have people to travel with, to be quite honest. Did I go out and seek communities? Probably not. There was no internet, by the way, back then.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so easy. You kind of wait around. But in hindsight, I would love to know, for anybody that's saying, okay, but I can't travel because of this. What do you tell them? Take the husband out of the picture. Because that's a
Yeah, of
little
course.
complication that probably we didn't need.
Right. So that's why I was like, well, maybe there's somewhere closer, just because I mean, going on a solo trip, you're going to get obsessed with it. You're probably not going to come back home. So, uh,
Yeah,
well,
we don't want to
my,
cause any issues.
right. Well, my book is titled, Hey, You Just Go. So I think it just sums it
Okay.
all up there. So I would obviously tell people just to go, because life's too short. And I always share this story of when I was in Myanmar in Burma, I was on a shuttle bus, and there was a couple that came on and sat next to me. So we were chit chatting, and they were asking me like what I was doing and where I was going, why I was there. And I'm like, I'm just traveling around, backpacking. And they just started their adventure. They were like, we just retired and we just started our travels and we're having so much fun. And they're like, but I wish we had started like your age. And I remember that
Mhm.
sticking with me, because I was like, I don't want to get to an age or time in my life where I'm like, I wish I had done this, because we don't get that time back. So I took that lesson from them of like, if you want to do something, If you
Right.
have a calling to do something, a feeling to do something, like do it. The worst case scenario is like you don't like it, you can go back home, or
You
you
can
can
get
go
on the
back.
next flight back.
Yeah. So like I didn't want to have regrets, and I didn't want to have limited time in life to have that freedom to travel the world when I wanted to on my own terms by myself. And then knowing I wanted all these other things in my life to be able to do with having a family and everything, children and stuff too. So it's a testament to like just go and do it.
Just do it. And I can echo that. I can echo that just from my own experience. I think I blew 10 years of my life waiting to travel because just not finding the right people to travel with and not giving myself permission to just move on and find those people, so to speak. So don't wait. Don't wait. Just do it. Forget about the being alone. It's better to be alone than to not do it.
Oh, absolutely. You
Yeah.
honestly, I prefer solo travel anyways, because then I don't need to do what other people want to do all the time. If I want to sleep in, I can sleep in. If I want
Yeah.
to lay on the beach longer, I can lay on the beach longer.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So
Traveling
just
solo,
freaking do it and you make all the rules for crying out loud, right?
it's very empowering. And just because you're traveling solo does not mean you have to be alone. Like you meet so many great people and can travel with them for a little bit, and then I can say, bye, I'm going this way, and you go that way. That's how I
Exactly.
did it.
Definitely is for anybody. You'll always meet somebody and you'll always have a conversation.
Oh,
So the alone time is only as much as you want
yep,
it, right?
absolutely.
Okay. So just moving on, I want to ask you about your favorite book of all time. And this would be the book that changed your life in some way, shape, or form. It could be fiction, nonfiction. What would that be?
I would probably say The Power of Now, just because of how empowering it was. I think everyone should read that book. It just taught me so much about like how to go about things in life, and I use it into my business. It's one of like the best business books out there as well. Have you read that one?
No, not
The
at
Power
all.
of Now. I would say that one, or Tuesdays with Maury, and I would say that book because it taught me to not take for granted the time that we have with people. Yeah, those two are probably that stick out the most.
Great. So I know you have an offer, right? Do you?
Certification program probably.
Probably, but I'm going to give you the
Yeah.
floor. Talk about anything
Sure.
you want then.
Yeah, so outside of traveling, I'm the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network, where we train, educate, and certify travel coaches around the globe. We have over 615 students in our program in 40 plus different countries. Travel coaches focus in so many different niches. We talk about healing today, we talk about personal stories, and really they help people use travel as a tool, a vessel, a medium for healing, transformation, reaching whatever goals and aspirations that person has in their life, which travel can do for us. But only when we bring awareness to why we travel and set intentions for our trips. Yeah, you can learn more about the Travel Coach Network or our certification program. It is ICF accredited, International Coach Federation accredited, on our social channels, which is all our the Travel Coach Network, and then same thing with our website.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to close it out. And I want to thank you, Sahara, for joining me on this conversation on Diana Prince. And okay, thank you everyone for tuning in to Diana Prince Lives Next Door. If you want to learn more about Sahara Rose and the Travel Coach Network, make sure you click the link that I dropped in the description. And definitely for her travel coach certification, make sure you click and join. Remember, this podcast is a tribute to the Gal Project and Angela Atelier's shared mission to empower women to rise, step into their uniqueness, and live their boldest, most confident lives. Until next time, keep owning your story. This is Angela Acosta signing off.